Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and this episode is geared towards indie filmmakers, specifically filmmakers who are making their first, second, or perhaps third feature film. Now, before I fully get into the advice that I have, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already, that way you get all the various episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, let's get into this. My biggest recommendation is that your film should be 90 minutes, roughly, right? Plus or minus 5 minutes. Now, why do I say this? Well, number one, the biggest reason is it's a lot easier for film festivals to accept your film when it's in that range, right? A lot of the festivals that you might be going out for, they're trying to fit in as many films as possible. And if you have an hour and 40, hour and 50, 2-hour movie, not as possible, right? So it becomes more difficult to get slotted into a film festival just by that nature of itself. The other reason is it just naturally helps with pacing and story, right? A lot of times, and I've seen this firsthand with my stuff, you create something, there's all this backstory, you fall in love with it, and you're like, how can anything be cut possibly? And then you do some viewing feedback with just audiences, and it becomes pretty clear of the parts that they feel slow it down. I'll give you an example. With my second feature film, there was a couple parts that just became quite evident. And there were parts that I absolutely loved, but upon getting that feedback, I looked at it and I was like, okay, yeah, I get why they're saying this, and it does make sense. And if that's what they want, then okay, let's do it. And then we addressed those notes. It got the movie, at the time it was like 98 minutes. We got it down to 92, just, through this various stuff. And it made the movie that much better, right? It's, I think the stuff that we're seeing in movies, right, tends to be longer and things like that. And I don't think that's a good trend. Because in order to have like a 2-hour plus movie, even just a 2-hour movie, that's a lot of story beats you have to be able to have and sustain, which is really hard. And plus, just in any form of storytelling, whether it's poetry, whether it's music, whether it's, novels, films, so forth, you want to have the maximum impact in the shortest amount of time, right? And so in that way, 90 minutes is a friend of yours because it forces you to maximize the impact rather than just thinking that, okay, I'm going to let things hit and breathe and so forth. And it's not to say that it has to be, fast paced throughout. There are moments to let things breathe and slow down. But it just, by having that restriction on yourself to compress your movie into 90 minutes, it becomes much more natural and it flows in that way. And I've seen it. I've seen it of my own stuff, and I've seen it for other indie filmmakers that I've been grateful to be able to work with and have some input, and at the same time just an observer of these things. And it's not to say that an hour and 40-minute movie or longer or whatever is a bad thing that you're not able to pull it off. It's just, especially when you're starting off, it's better to continue learning the craft, if you will, right? And I know that sounds like a negative, but we all have to, we're still at that experimentation phase. That's why I directed this specifically at people making their first, second, or perhaps third feature film, right? It's still that learning phase of things. And then, you can get beyond that. When you look at it, like even directors that I love, Robert Rodriguez or Christopher Nolan, their first movies were in that 70 to 80 minute range, give or take. And other amazing filmmakers kind of found themselves in that as well, right? And so it just creates a better product from my experience because of just the force restriction that it has for you. And people in general look at restriction as a negative, but whether it's storytelling conventions and filmmaking conventions, all those things are there. We need restrictions because I'm sure you could point to an example of a piece of art where if they just defy all convention, it doesn't work out. And now, granted, the ones that do, they're already, it's like that sort of, I believe it was Picasso said, you gotta learn the rules in order to break the rules, right? So if you want to defy genres and convention and things like that, well, first you have to be a master at those things. And that's why I would not recommend it with your first or second film, because you're not there yet. Or if you are going to do it, then understand that, there's a give and take with it. And just like with abstract art, it tends to draw in a smaller audience. You have to be willing to accept that. That's the trade-off, right? So, approach it in that way. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on why 90 minutes or, 90 minutes, give or take, right? Plus or minus 5 minutes or whatever is the ideal length for a feature when you're starting off. Now, if you go shorter, then fine, so be it. In fact, one of my favorite movies, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, is only like 72 minutes. So, it can be shorter. Don't worry about that. But I would just say, like, if, most people shoot for something serious and it can go a little bit long. That's why I say get it down to 90. So thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. As always, if you have thoughts or questions, comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Would love to chat with you. Likewise, if there's anything that you think I might be a benefit of and want to connect more directly, well, that's what my Patreon page is for. Patreon.com/PhilSvitek. It's an opportunity for us to connect in the various ways through the various tiers there. And also, I've made mention to my own art projects, right? So I have a movie out. I will have a second movie out soon. Not quite yet. I have books out and stuff like that. All of them are linked to down in the description box. If you want to check those out, I would appreciate it because supporting those helps support this. It's very symbiotic and so forth. By me getting to work on that stuff, I learned lessons that I can then share here with you. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and hope to see you next time.